Well, Keefe D is currently in prison. Well, currently in jail in Las Vegas over the whole Tupac murder case.
I thought he had got out.
No, he didn't get out.
No.
He's still there. Whack 100 tried to bail him out, but ultimately the bail proceedings fell apart. And actually, what's interesting is that Whack came in and did an interview with me, and he announced, I didn't even know he was going to mention this, but out of the blue, he goes, "Yeah, I'm gonna bail out Keefe D, and when he's out, we're gonna work on some content, possibly like a mini series or something like that." So during the bail hearing, they played a piece of my interview in court and say, "Oh, this guy's only bailing him out to make money and off him and so forth," which I don't even believe is illegal, because you're innocent until proven guilty. So an innocent man could create content while he's on bail, right?
Yeah, you would think so, but it is illegal to make money off your crime.
Before you're convicted?
Well, it's not a crime until you're convicted. You're not, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Keefe D is an innocent man right now.
In a bail hearing, they can use stuff that's not really evidence in a bail hearing. So a bail hearing is not like a trial. It's just like, how do you explain it? They don't have to have facts with a bail hearing. They could just throw stuff out in a bail hearing.
Yeah, I think a couple people tried to bail him out, but ultimately no one's been able to bail him out, and he's still in jail right now. And in fact, he got beat up by the cops at one point. I guess he's going to be suing the police department because Keefe D is like 60-something years old. I believe he has cancer. And the story I heard was he had 2 mattresses, in his bunk bed,
yeah,
which is technically illegal, but most people just don't really care. So when the cops went in to search the room, they saw he had 2 mattresses. They wanted to take one of the mattresses. He started to argue and so forth. They ended up basically beating him up in the jail cell over him, not wanting them to take the mattress. So that's basically the situation. But, essentially, he wrote a book about his involvement in the murder and then did a Vlad TV interview talking about the whole situation, then went on to do like 5 other interviews talking about the whole situation.
Yeah, I saw the interview he did with you.
What'd you think?
I thought he was crazy. When I hear guys talking about murders that they committed that they haven't been to jail for, or they haven't been, granted immunity to go anywhere and talk about it is crazy.
Well, yeah, he had a proffer agreement where he talked about it, but from what I understand, proffer agreements are only valid on the day of that agreement. If you turn around and continue to talk about it afterwards, you can get charged for it. And they could use the information from a proffer agreement to get other people to testify against you without using your actual statement, but the other people could end up convicting you over that crime. So it's a dirty game.
Yeah. I mean, you got to be careful when you're doing that stuff. He should have had a good lawyer. But, even with a lawyer, he probably still would have been in trouble.
Well, yeah. I mean, he has a lawyer. The lawyer tried to say that he wasn't even in Las Vegas at the time, but they actually found a hotel booking under his wife's name on that same date. The lawyer is trying to say that all of this was made up because Keefe needed money and people like me were paying for these interviews, which is true. I did pay him for the interview, for 2 interviews, actually. And if they ask me, I'll tell them, yeah, I paid him for the interview. But my thing is, this was the first time I actually interviewed someone about an unsolved murder, but he had written a book about it, which was on Amazon at the time. So my mentality was like, okay, if you wrote a book and you're willing to talk about what's in the book, yeah, I'll do the interview.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're a news reporter.
Yeah.
You gonna get the story out. That's your job is to get the story out. So, I mean, I know people blame you for getting those type of stories out, but guys have to know what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, fame is a hell of a drug, man. I think it's worse than crack.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't talk about what I'm talking to you about unless I went to trial for it. You know, I went to trial. All this stuff came out in the courtroom, and the jury made their decision.
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, I've interviewed probably at this point hundreds of people that talk about their crimes, but except for Keefe D, every single person had did time over those crimes, or it's past the statute of limitations because it's not murder. You know, I mean, I remember you were the first person I ever admitted on camera that I bought that kilo of cocaine back in the 90s. That was the first time I ever said that on camera. I've said it a whole bunch of times since then, but my thing is like, this is way past the statute of limitations.
Yeah.
There's no possible way they could charge me for this kilo. And even if they try to charge me,
you start back selling cocaine.
Unless I went back selling cocaine, exactly. Because here's the thing: if they try to charge me, I'll say I made it all up. I needed content, so I made up this whole story.
Yeah, but then then the jury get to validate that story.
Right.
It's still going to be up to the jury to validate it. You know, was it true or was it false? So, your faith
way past. Yeah, but it's way past the statute.
Oh
of limitations.
no question. I'm just saying
way past. Yeah.
If it's somebody that is under that situation, you know, with Keefe D, he's going to get to say that he made that stuff up. But the jury's going to have to evaluate his statements and see, are they true or false now, or are they true or false back then?
I mean, do you think there's any chance he could beat this case?
I think Keefe got a tough case. You know, I mean, it's so much documentation and videos, and it don't look good for Keefe.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, Las Vegas PD
Unless he put it on Puffy. I hear he's going to put it on Puffy.
Well, yeah, it's a weird situation because if he puts it on Puffy, then he's admitting that he did the murder, right? If he says Puffy told me he'll give me $1 million to do this, so I did it, you just admitted to your role in the murder, right?
Yeah, but if the government gives him immunity.
Well, it's a state case. It's not a Fed case.
What the state can give him immunity for the feds.
I didn't know you could do that.
Yep. I mean, they both prosecutors. All they got to do is cooperate.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see Puffy being tied into this case. Even if he did say that I'll give you $1 million. Because I remember one of the things that Keefe talked about in his book, and we touched on this in the interview, was after the shooting happened, he claims that Puffy called him and said, "Was that us?" Now, to try to prove a phone call from 1996, you'd have to prove that money changed hands, like from 20 years ago.
That phone call would be circumstantial evidence.
Right. It was just a phone call.
Yeah, but it would be evidence that him and Puffy talked.
Well, that's true.
I mean, that would be circumstantial evidence for a jury to evaluate. You know, why was he calling him after the murder?
Right.
I mean, when you go into trial, all of that stuff comes up, and all that stuff is being evaluated and analyzed. And, you know, the jury would definitely have to take that phone call in consideration of what that phone call was about.
Well, then you got to prove that phone call. What cell phone was this? What phone number was it? Is the number tied to Diddy?
Phones records never leave. Once they're there forever.
Even from the 90s?
I'm sure they still got the record of that phone call. When you know, it's crazy, right? Because we used to have the phones, and then we would have the phones that we did business on. We would have those phones where they give you the fake number, you know, where you didn't have to pay the bill. And we didn't think that they could trace those phones, but they came up with all of those numbers to every one of those phone calls, even though those numbers wasn't their numbers that go to that phone.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's such a disadvantage when it comes to law enforcement in general, but the feds in particular. They are going to pull every possible thing. You know, like the Lil Durk case. They have the car parked in front of the sporting goods store at the exact same time that he bought 4 ski masks in Los Angeles.
Yeah, it's too much evidence against Lil Durk now. Their case is his lawyers should be trying to make a deal right now.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's ironic also, because remember I said in the very beginning that the overall situation was Lil Durk was beefing with NBA Youngboy. Durk's lawyer, Drew Finling, used to be NBA Youngboy's lawyer at one point. So the same lawyer has been representing both sides.
Well, that might be a conflict of interest, though. He may not be able to represent him.
Well, he represented Youngboy on a whole different situation. It was like a gun case or something. Right?
Yeah, but it still may be some conflict there.
Well, possibly.
Yeah, it's usually when they do that, they don't allow him to represent. So it could be some conflict there. But his case is too much evidence against him.
Well, yeah, I mean, the same lawyer, Drew Finling, who's representing Durk, also represented Big Meech when he took the 30-year plea deal. So this lawyer's been in the mix. I know him. I've interviewed him before. Cool guy. He's referred some lawyers to me, that I need in other situations. So
yeah.